Should we start with a book because it's boring?
Yeah, all right, good call.
Okay.
So for me, it's a choice between a book that means a lot to me, but it is ultimately a children's book because I read it when I was younger, but I still love it. But it's not going to give me much entertainment, but I would like to always have it with me for sentimental values. Or be more practical and have like a book of poetry, which I can just once a day read something from, and then by the time I've finished it, I won't remember the first poem, and I can just read it for all of eternity. So I've got one for each of those. The sentimental book is a book called Not Again, spelt Knot.
Right.
I don't remember the author's name, but it doesn't really matter. It's done by I think it's done by the guy that wrote Flat Stanley, which is much more popular, if anyone remembers that. But anyway, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. It's just a great little story that made me laugh when I was. I can't even think when I must have first read it. I must have been 11 or 12. So it's not really a kid. It's a young adult. Well, no, not a young adult. It's a young fiction, I'll say. But yeah, it was really funny then, and then I ordered it from Amazon a couple of months ago and read it again for the first time, and I was like, wow, it's really funny now. And that's also like the third or fourth time I've bought that book, because every couple of years I just think, oh yeah, I love that story, and I'm going to get it and read it again, and I do. And yeah, it's just pretty great. It's just funny. It follows two kids whose families buy a horrible caravan and go on holiday together, and they meet and they get burgled, and they at the caravan site where they're staying, there's a wrestling show going on, and they think one of the wrestlers is the burglar, because obviously, but then they actually meet the wrestler, and he's really nice, and he helps them find the burglar. And it's really funny and really great and really nice and really wholesome. So now that I've done a great job selling that, otherwise I would just pick one of John Cooper Clarke's poetry books, probably 10 Years in an Open-Necked Shirt, because that's my favourite.
Okay.
It's got loads and loads of poems, and I take it with me everywhere. That being said, I don't think I've got it here because it's up in York. But I try to read a poem a day anyway. But I try to read a poem from that at least once every couple of days.
Wow.
And I love everything in there. So I would just have that with me, I think.
You've put a lot more thought and effort and like heart and soul into picking your book than I have. Have you got a definitive answer?
I think
you can only take one.
Yeah, I know, and I think I love Not Again, but I think it would have to be the poetry book to keep me sane, because I can't just read the same short story over and over again, because I will die. Yeah. John Cooper Clarke, 10 Years in an Open-Necked Shirt. Very
interesting. I'll have to borrow that at some point.
You will.
When we next convene, because I'm going to be honest, I don't really read poetry, and I probably should.
For me, my favourite songs are ones that use very sort of emotive and interesting language, and when I read the lyrics on a website, I'm like, whoa, I don't even really know what that means, and I have to try and figure out what metaphor they're talking about. And then a point came in my life when I realised, well, that's just what a lot of poetry is. So I could just buy a poetry book rather than trying to find bands that make as good a music as my prime example is Arctic Monkeys or the Smiths, I guess. So from then on, I sort of always have poems in or around me. In me specifically.
That's brilliant.
So that's my answer.
I really like that. That's great. Whereas for me, I just sort of thought, I haven't really done much adult fiction reading. The last time I was reading fiction was when I was like a teen.
Yeah, same.
So like I have great memories of when I was a really young kid, Jack Stalwart, who was a spy, and then I sort of moved on to young Bond, who was a spy. And then of course there's Anthony Horowitz's Alex Rider, who was a spy. And those are like the ones that I remember loving the most. I also loved the Artemis Fowl books, if you ever read them. They were really interesting. They took like a different take on what it means to be a fairy, and for a little bit I thought fairies were cool.
Wow.
Don't know whether I still hold that to be true. And then as I grew up a little bit from that, the most adult books that I've ever read that are fiction is like a historical fiction series by Simon Scarrow, which is to do with like the Roman Legion. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember much about it. Which is great. So when I was thinking about this, I was like, in terms of entertainment and fiction, there probably isn't any that immediately jumps out to me, because it is, not for me. I had a great time reading it. I still think they're fantastic, and I think that people should read them at a certain age, but I don't know whether I have that much sentimental value and whether it would be that good for me. So then I started thinking, well, would I actually take a philosophical work, which
that's
are
what
hard
I thought you would
work,
drift towards,
but are really rewarding? And then I thought, I can't really be bothered to pick one. Imagine picking like Kant's main magnum opus or something like that. It's like 700 pages of German gobbledygook. Absolutely not. Or I then started leaning towards like Albert Camus, like Stranger, or I think it's Le Peste, but Plague in English.
Yeah, Plague is downstairs.
Have you got it?
I just saw it on the bookshelf yesterday. Yeah.
And then I started thinking, what about Voltaire, Candide, which I thought was brilliant, but then I was like, but that's just, as you say, it can be summed up with 2 words: religion bad. So I started to away from that, and then I thought maybe just like a book of Stoic quotes, because I've seen on Amazon loads, they're like 365 Stoic quotes, one a day, and then I thought that's a bit twee. So then I went back to fiction and was like, are there any books that I've been told about that I should read? And I think in this scenario, this is how desperate it became. When I've also got an album, TV, film, and someone to talk to, I thought, let's just gamble on a book I've been told is good that I haven't read yet, so that it's new and fresh and interesting. So
that might be a good idea.
I decided to go for David Copperfield, Charles Dickens, because I've been told it's good. It shows up in a lot of greatest books of all times lists, from my understanding. Dickens is apparently a great writer, and I might not hate it. And if I do, it'll be great kindling. So that's my choice. I could eat it. Wouldn't sustain me, but I'm sure it tastes great.
Well, there you go.
So if this was a competition, it would be 1-0 to you.